This week, Tom Hanks witnesses miracles on a prison block known as the Green Mile.
Ralph Fiennes and Julianne Moore are wartime lovers who relive the end of the affair.
And Sean Penn has a genius for music but no talent for love in Sweet and Lowdown.
I'm not going to have any trouble with you, big boy. Can you talk?
Tom Hanks plays a death row warden getting his first look at a new prisoner in the Green Mile in that scene, and it's one of 5 big holiday movies we'll review this week. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Lisa Schwartzbaum, a film critic at Entertainment Weekly. And Roger, it's a pleasure to be back here.
And thank you for coming back, Lisa. Okay, our first movie is The Green Mile, and this is one of the most anticipated films of the year, not only because it stars Tom Hanks, but because it was written and directed by Frank Darabont, whose first movie, The Shawshank Redemption, is a modern classic. The new film, like Shawshank, is based on a story of prison life by Stephen King. And as it opens, it's 1935, and a new condemned man has entered a Louisiana death row, which is called the Green Mile. Played by Michael Clark Duncan, he's gigantic but gentle.
Questions?
Do you leave the light on after bedtime? Because I get a little scared in the dark sometimes.
David Morse plays Tom Hanks' second in command, and one day comes to him with some amusing news. The mouse becomes the pet of a condemned man played by Michael Jeter.
Watch this. Watch what he do. Ain't he something now?
The film's supernatural component reveals itself unexpectedly when the Hanks character is suffering from a painful infection and the new prisoner thinks he can help.
Smelling me some cornbread.
It's from my missus. She wanted to thank you.
Thank you for what?
Well, you know.
Why helping me? Helping you with what?
You know.
Oh.
The performances by Tom Hanks, David Morse, and Sam Rockwell give us a real sense of day-to-day life on the Green Mile, and Michael Clark Duncan is remarkable in his combination of a formidable physical presence and a good soul. This is a fable, not a realistic story. The buried theme is the way the black man suffers to redeem the sins of the whites. The Green Mile is absorbing, moving, wonderfully acted and directed, and a leading Oscar candidate, and it's rated R for some gruesome execution sequences. We ought to add that, I think.
Yeah, we should add that, and we should also say be prepared to sit for 3 hours. That's the one thing that I've got to point out. I agree with you on all of this. I think that Frank Darabont has actually cornered the market on doing prison stories by Stephen King. There's something, you know, I like this film. Look, it's Christmas cheese, like The Mouse. I go for it. It's wonderful. It's awfully long. Tell me why it needs to take 3 hours to tell a fable about a man, by the way, who has the initials J.C. We need to point that out.
Well, you know, I never really worry about that as long as I'm enjoying a film. I don't think that a good film can ever be too long or a bad film can ever be short enough. And as long as I'm enjoying myself, I'm interested in these characters, I'm happy to have the additional stuff. If you made this a 2-hour film, then I'd want to see the director's cut, to see the stuff that was left out.
I wouldn't want to see the director's cut.
They'd take out the mouse, you
They
know.
wouldn't take out the mouse. The mouse is part of the book. Everything goes along with the book quite nicely. It's not the greatest film in the world, but I did enjoy it. I didn't press my Indiglo a lot, but somewhat.
Okay.
Oh, well, our next film addresses the mysteries of faith. Writer-director Neil Jordan does a stirring job of it in The End of the Affair, his elegant adaptation of Graham Greene's deeply personal 1951 novel about a passionate relationship between a married woman and a jealous man that doesn't end out of hate, but out of a higher love. Ralph Fiennes and Julianne Moore star as Morris and Sarah, whose hearts beat faster in wartime England as bombs drop. When we first meet them, though, the affair has ended, and Morris, still jealous, turns a chance encounter with Sarah's worried husband, played by Stephen Ray, into an opportunity to spy on the woman who hurt him.
I could pretend to be a jealous lover. Jealous lovers are less ridiculous than jealous husbands.
Saying he's acting on behalf of her husband, Morris hires a private detective to trail Sarah.
She has secrets.
Ah, secrets. Yes.
Well, there may be nothing in it, of course.
In my experience, Mr. Vendricks, there almost invariably is.
These bitter suspicions contrast starkly to flashbacks of happier days when the couple had eyes only for each other.
I'm in love, you know.
Me too.
And then forward again to moments when the cheater and the cheated on understand each other perfectly.
Why didn't she leave me?
Because you're a habit she's formed. You're her security.
Why did she leave you?
I became a bore. She wouldn't leave you, so I bored her with my jealousy.
The End of the Affair is an extraordinary adult story about the only erotic love story I can think of that makes room for a serious consideration of God and Catholic faith between sexy scenes in bed. It's a tricky balance to get right. Jealousy and lust, craving and self-denial, time past and time present. But Neil Jordan's the director to do hard stories justice. This is a quiet, subtle movie in a noisy holiday, which really is its own kind of blessing.
Well, you know, oddly enough, I thought this movie played longer than The Green Mile.
Oh, you got to get
really
your
did.
face
And it
straight
didn't
here.
really grab me. I like Julianne Moore's performance very much, but she's caught between these two men who are basically both introverted bores. And although I love the novel, I've read all of Graham Greene, and this is one of my favorite Graham Greene novels, this one, to me, didn't really have the passion. It was all ideas about passion.
Well, no, I think that ideas are really what he's trying to get across. This is complicated. This is Catholicism. This is lust. You got to breathe slower with this. I like that he breathes slower. You know, Neil Jordan did it with The Butcher Boy. He did it with The Crying Game. He takes the hardest stuff and makes it understandable.
Well, you have to give Jordan credit, and also you have to give Greene credit, because what he did in so many of his books was show people who absolutely did believe in Catholicism, at the same time were weak and were prey to temptations of the flesh.
Right.
And that's what's happening here. But to me, it just never reached takeoff velocity. I just didn't really feel these people were right there on the screen happening to each other. I thought it was all kind of abstract.
This has to do with a rebirth of faith, and so taking off really isn't what it's about. Also, we should point out, again, another great performance, Ian Hart, who plays a detective.
Yes.
Great small role. There's a nice little class thing going on there. There's a lot happening. I'm sorry it didn't make you leap out of your seat, but this is a nice one to sit
Okay,
through
Ian Hart,
quietly.
I'll give you. He's the detective that's hired to follow her around, and he and his boy, and his love for his boy, that's great
There's a lot
stuff.
happening.
Coming up later, Sean Penn stars in Woody Allen's Street and Lowdown. And coming up next, Sigourney Weaver in A Map of the World.
I am trying to have a complete nervous breakdown, and no one will let me do it in peace.
The McKessie kid is working my nerves.
Oh, not again.
That mother of his spending her welfare checks at the racetrack. Some people shouldn't be allowed to have children.
Sigourney Weaver plays a school nurse, and Chloe Sevigny is the mother of a troublesome child, and that's seen from A Map of the World. Weaver is also a farm wife in a small Wisconsin community where everyone knows everyone else all too well, and I think her performance in this film may be the best of her career, even better than in The Ice Storm. She creates a smart, stubborn, rebellious woman who gets unfairly blamed when tragedy strikes and then only makes things worse for herself with her big mouth and strong opinions. David Strathern plays her husband, who stands by helplessly as she's placed under arrest.
Howard, Bobby McKessie says I did awful things.
What's going on?
I'm in trouble, Howard. Read the piece of
Will
paper.
someone please explain to me what's going on?
Howard,
What's this? I don't have time to read this.
what
are
you
doing?
need to do, what you need to do is take care of the girls. I'll call as soon as I sort this out.
Ma'am. Returning home after time in jail, she finds out that her own map of the world and those of her family will have to be redrawn.
What was jail like?
Well, it was like being in a large litter of hamsters in a small metal cage.
A Map of the World is the kind of movie that could easily turn into a soppy, sentimental soap opera, but it doesn't. In fact, it goes in exactly the opposite direction, into a study of a quirky personality that values stubbornness above common sense. The movie was directed by Broadway veteran Scott Elliott, who is uncanny in the way he creates suspense, not with big, dumb plot points, but by close observation of this woman's personality. I think Weaver is a very good bet for an Oscar nomination.
I agree with you on all of that. We're agreeing way too much here, but I do think that she does a great performance in a story that, you know, there have been other movies that have come out this year, Anywhere But Here, things like that, which are these kind of I call them lifetime TV-made things that don't adapt well to the screen. And this works really quite well.
Yes, it does.
There's, you know, I've got to find fault in a movie that I like. David Strathairn always is playing wimpy husbands, and he's so good, and he's so attractive a performer that I wish there were a little bit better balance between the two of them as husband and wife.
Well, there's kind of an interesting suspense there in the fact that he's really kind of behind her. But he doesn't really have the style.
She dismisses him.
He doesn't have the
kind of
moxie to
ignores
be behind
him.
her in a strong way. He's kind of behind her in a
Well,
weak
she
way.
demands a lot.
She's the dominant member of this couple, and that's what's interesting, that she has always marched right in and said exactly what she thinks, and now she finds,
yes.
I mean, this is her whole...
Yes, it's true. You know, the other thing that's so interesting about Sigourney Weaver to me, often she comes across as being smarter and better and physically larger than her role. Because she's such an incredible presence, she really is playing it to the right size here, and that makes a huge difference. And P.S. Julianne Moore in another. She's got our whole week going on here.
This
so
is Julianne Moore, and we couldn't really get into Julianne Moore without really talking about all kinds of plot points that are going to probably be a surprise for some people when they see the film. But it's a good one.
yes, it is. All right. Well, coming up next, Sean Penn plays the world's second greatest jazz guitarist in Woody Allen's comedy Sweet and Lowdown.
Why Emmett Ray? Because he was interesting. Sort of pathetic in a way. He was flamboyant, obnoxious, and he was funny.
That's the inimitable voice of Woody Allen describing Emmett Ray, the jazz virtuoso who's the subject of Sweet and Lowdown. Allen's droll mockumentary celebrates a forgotten and fictional 1930s guitarist who was famous for his beautiful tunes and his lousy private life. Ray, played with snappy gusto by Sean Penn, had great chops, but when it came to personal relationships, he was out of tune. The woman who loved Ray best was a simple laundress, played by Samantha Morton. She was mute, but ardent. So, of course, he treated her like an old flipper.
Yeah, hold on. Hold it. Time out. Just, I'm getting a little razzled. Your pace. You like me? Yeah. Just expected more of a fight.
Ray was much more intrigued with the highfalutin sophistication of elegant dames like Blanche. That's Uma Thurman all dolled up.
Gosh, not only are you vain and egotistical, but you have genuine crudeness.
Of course, even a genius can suffer professional setbacks. Sweet and Lowdown is one of the prolific filmmaker's nice stories, like Bullets Over Broadway, rather than one of his nasties like Deconstructing Harry. Here, Allen has a sweet sense of the swing era and an even sweeter sense of who's cool on the screen today. Of course, all of Allen's movies practically vibrate with autobiographical fantasy, and this one's no different. Is Emmett Ray the misunderstood genius? Poor baby, a stand-in for you-know-who? Well, you said it, he didn't.
Well, I think that all of Woody's pictures are autobiographical in one way or another, but this one is so sweet in the way that it shows this man's loss. He has the great love of his life. He doesn't know it. He's so stupid. He lets her go. Then he won't forgive himself. And Sean Penn is so good.
Always a great actor, always underappreciated in a way.
Sean Penn is the best. He is able to step right into a totally different character here and make this guy, unlike anybody else he's ever played, convinces us he can play the guitar. I mean, that's him playing that guitar. You can see his fingers moving. And at the same time, how obsessed he is with his music and how stupid he is about everything else.
And with the music of Django Reinhardt, who was the real genius, the real gypsy genius who did this. Also, I am amazed at how fast Woody Allen found Samantha Morton. This girl, since she came out of Under the Skin, has just been hot, and he does great with her. Please explain to me why the best woman in this guy's life is mute. I don't know about that.
Well, maybe it's what he thinks he's looking for.
What he thinks he's looking for.
And
somebody who doesn't talk back and is just ready to shine his shoes.
And she's not really mute anyway, though. She's not really mute.
Well, of course, she's eloquent inside because she's this lovely, beaming girl.
Okay, next movie. And our next film is strangely appropriate on the same show with The Green Mile, which was a film about death row, because this is a documentary by Errol Morris named Mr. Death about a man named Fred A. Leuchter, Jr., an engineer who became a specialist in designing electric chairs, gas chambers, lethal injection machines, and hanging gallows. You know, you realize somebody has to do this. In this scene, his nephew describes the day an electric chair arrived at his house for repairs.
It's very difficult getting up and down those stairs with a couple 100-pound piece of oak chair. Well, of course, before we even brought it inside, had to have Fred sit down and it strapped him in. I said no thanks.
Lecter recalls that his father was a prison guard and he often visited him at work.
I was in the same room that people like Sacco and Vanzetti were executed in. I learned a number of things from the inmates that normally would be illegal, but have proved very useful to me in my later life.
Mr. Death goes on to tell the story of how Leuchter is recruited by a Holocaust denier to examine the gas chambers at the Auschwitz death camp. Leuchter decides that cyanide gas was never used at Auschwitz, and he becomes a star on the Holocaust denial lecture circuit, even while the very scientist who analyzed his samples explains the basic errors that he made. As the movie examines a small-time execution specialist who tries to get big-time murderers off the hook, it spirals into the murky confusions of a lonely man who is happy to have new friends, even if they're apologists for the Nazis. The hangman always needs friends. Errol Morris specializes in films about people who are obsessed in one way or another, and Mr. Death is one of his strangest and most provocative cases.
I agree with you completely. You know, maybe it's because it's the holiday season and the good stuff is coming out, but this just is amazing. And only Errol Morris could take a guy as complicated, as hard to pin down as this character. What's great about it is you never can say, oh, well, this is so ridiculous. How can anybody believe this or not believe this? You can practically see into the murky mind of this man, and then you can't.
The movie is great to look at. It's great to listen to, the music, the photography, and then he goes so subtly from this man who is an expert on how to build an electric chair, but he's not an expert on cyanide gas, and as the scientist says, he introduced an error of between 10,000 and 100,000 times into his research and doesn't even understand that.
You know, we're looking at all these dramas with people who are supposedly complicated. Real people are the most complicated. Morris gets this better than anybody.
When we come back, my video pick of the week is often called one of the greatest films of all time, but no one alive has ever seen it in its original version.
Roger Ebert in the Movies Video Pick of the Week is brought to you by Nestle Raisinets. At the movies or at home, Raisinets.
My video pick this week is a new version of Erich von Stroheim's famous 1925 silent film, Greed, which is routinely voted one of the best films of all time, and that's even though more than 7 hours of its almost 10-hour running time was cut out before the film's premiere and has apparently been lost forever. No one now alive saw the uncut film, but viewers all over the world are familiar with the 140-minute version, which tells the story of a dim-witted dentist named McTeague trapped by his lust for a patient. That's Gibson Howland as McTeague and Zazu Pitts as Trina, who turns into a miser after they're married. Hatred grows between them, and he murders her, steals her lottery winnings, and then tries to escape into Death Valley. The closest possible approach to a reconstruction has been made by Rick Schmidlin, who has used von Stroheim's original shooting script and hundreds of still photographs taken during the production to fill in the missing scenes. Greed in this new version will air twice Sunday evening, this Sunday on the TCM Movie Channel, so check your local listings for the time, and then it's going to be released in a new video version on tapes and discs. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. 2 thumbs up for Frank Darabont's prison drama, The Green Mile, starring Tom Hanks in a wonderful performance. It opens next week. We split on Neil Jordan's The End of the Affair. Lisa thought it was an elegant mix of religion and lust. I saw the elegance, but not the passion. 2 thumbs up for Scott Elliott's A Map of the World, starring Sigourney Weaver in one of her best performances. 2 more thumbs up for Woody Allen's Sweet and Lowdown, with a terrific performance by Sean Penn. And finally, 2 big thumbs up for Errol Morris's brilliant new documentary, Mr. Death. It will open in New York and L.A. on December 29th and go wider in January.
You know, with all of the big films, I'm really glad that we can talk about Mr. Death because you won't find it otherwise, and it's so worth looking for. Anything he does, look for an Errol Morris movie.
Errol Morris is one of a kind.
He's the guy.
Thanks a lot for being here, Lisa.
It's been great.
Remember, you can hear our reviews on the web, Lisa and myself, at ebert-movies.com, part of Go Network, and my print reviews are all online at suntimes.com. Next week, more new movies, including The Cider House Rules, starring Michael Caine and Tobey Maguire, and Cradle Will Rock, starring Susan Sarandon, John Cusack, and Bill Murray.
Can we be alone?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Just me.
That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
The new Roger Ebert's Movie Yearbook 2000. Now with every recent Ebert movie review. Available at bookstores everywhere.